You want to sit down for this one. Season 2 is blessing necromancer like crazy. If you're a fan of the blood, summoner, and shadow playstyle, this is exactly what you've been looking for. First, we're going to go over skill, passive, paragon changes, and there's also new unique items. And last but not least, let's mention where to actually target farm the respective uniques, because the Beast and Ice, which is for nightmare dungeons, will give you the Ring of Mendel and the Death Speaker's Pendant. It couldn't be easier. Now, very important for summons from the beginning on, they cannot take more than 30% of their maximum life as damage in one hit. That passive is removed from the Necro, and now all minions just have that baseline. All the different Thorns affixes to mages, to golem, to warriors are now just minions have Thorns. Also, minions inherit critical strike chance. There's an affix that exists like this as well, so we can finally gouge that a bit better. Cooldown reduction appears on shields too, which is interesting because that's the reason why I never went for shields. And also, blood orbs now heal your minions for 15% of your maximum life when picked up of your maximum life. So if you go overpower and boost maximum life, Blood Surge Summoner, on top of healing yourself and fortifying yourself with your Paragon board, you now heal your minions without the transfusion skill. Army of the Dead is still shit. Sadly, they didn't rework that completely, but it now leaves behind more corpses. The interesting part is that all the fortify skills you have, Supernatural Blood Surge, Hemorrhage, Dreadful Blood Mist, all of this is now based on your maximum life instead of on your base life, giving you way higher values. If before you get 300, you get now suddenly 600 fortify, which straight up allows you to deal more overpower damage. Now, Death Defense used to reduce the damage your minion can take by 30% with a single hit. Now it says, and it's way more interesting, your minions gain 4, 8, 12% armor and 8, 16, 24% resistance to all elements. So right away, you can make your minions more tanky because they have the first one inherent now, so they can't take more than 30% of their maximum life from a single damage instance. Plus, they get more armor and resistance to all elements, reducing that damage even more. They're reworking Terra. This is great because now it's any kind of shadow damage and you don't have to read in your aspects, turns into a shadow skill. They also added the first bonus now applies to chilled enemies and its second bonus applies to frozen enemies, which means we're going to have the double now of slowed and chilled and then stunned, immobilized, or frozen. It should work out plenty well. Standalone, the description was changed, but it's essentially the same 18% damage reductions with no minion, and each active minion reduces this bonus by 2%. Again, Drain Vitality, Necrotic Carapace, both now scale with maximum life, so more fortify again. It's easier to fortify than ever. But they reworked Rathamus Vigor, and that's going to make overpower absolutely incredible. Previously, every 12 seconds you got blood skills to overpower. And now, after being healthy for 12 seconds, your next blood skills overpowers. Cool. This timer is reduced by 2 seconds each time blood orbs heal or overheal you for an amount greater than or equal to your base life. That's really easy to do, considering that you have the Bloodlands skill, where you consume blood orbs that are being created to make bonus bloodlands, giving you even more chance to overpower. And there's another change to overpower not mentioned. If you have multiple abilities that would guarantee an overpower and they all are active, so let's say 6 bloodlands, Rathamus Vigor, and also the vampiric power, only one is being consumed. It used to be different and they would consume all 2 or all 3 at the same time. But now if you have multiple stacking up, so your 12 seconds are there, and you have 6 casts, one is consumed, then the other. They buffed Shadow Blight as well and added another bonus to it. Shadow Blight's damage is increased by 100% multiplicative of your Shadow Damage over Time bonuses. So if we're now doing a Shadow Damage over Time build together with not just a main crit Shadow Blight build, because that's what it used to be. You used to just do a crit Shadow Blight build and vulnerable and have the Shadow Blight key passive proc, because it's not damage over time. But now Shadow Blight itself would also do more damage as we do more damage over time. Very effing good. But the best part is transfusion. Previously, it used to heal your minions for blood orbs, but now your minions get anyways healed by blood orbs. But new lucky hit, blood skills have a 369% chance on hit to spawn a blood orb. This can only occur once every 4 seconds. This chance is doubled against bosses. Now, it sounds so low, but considering Blood Surge hitting a whole goddamn room, and even then, lucky hit with 369% is kind of interesting because you hit a whole goddamn room, all 10, 12 minutes at the same time. And even if you make only one single blood orb every 4 seconds, That's still one blood orb that will give you essence, that gives you cooldown reduction, that heals your minions, that gives you fortify, that gives you bonus damage, and that can also spawn, again, bonus blood lances if you go for the blood lance build. I mean, right now it's seeming like blood lance is going to be the way to play, to be honest. Interestingly enough, the new gruesome mending reads, while below 50% life, you receive 10, 20, 30% healing from all sources. That is now 10, 20, 30% more healing from all sources. Straight up, that's it, plus 30% healing more, which then works very well together with Rathmas Vigor as your heals heal more, and then you get more cooldown reduction on even more overpowers. They reduced Inspiring Leader to 2 seconds. Now your minions get their attack speed faster, but it's still a useless skill in my opinion. Ossified Essence got nerfed because Bone Necro was too strong. I'm sorry, Bone Necro. And Bonnet and Essence also get a cooldown increase. Now the Book of the Dead gives different sacrifice bonuses. Skeletal Warriors sacrifice bonus. You gain 20% resistance to all elements, but you can no longer raise Skeletal Warriors. Generally, skirmishers and defenders do more damage. Golem's basic attack is 100% higher, which is great. And also the Blood Golem's ability is more dangerous, as the Iron Golem also goes crazy. Now, Skeletal Priest duration increased from 5 to 8 seconds. Total healing increased from 15 to 25%. That's cool. I like it. Thank you, Skeletal Priest. Then Bone Mage Sacrifice, also overpower bonus reduced from 40%. Yeah, okay, so the overpower bonus was a bit ridiculous with the 40% because it was kind of a needed thing. If you go for overpower, you need to sacrifice your mages because the 40% was so powerful. Like it get you into the 2000 range and whatsoever. Now it's an optional thing. Now to the Paragon Glyph changes, and they're interesting. So the Mage Paragon Glyph used to give 25% resistance to all elements for mages. Now it's all minions. The same goes for the Warriors Paragon's Glyph. Now all minions gain increased armor. So much easier to buff your minions now. The same goes for Infused Caster Rare Note is now minion resistance to all elements. And for the Flesh Horror Rare Note, Golem's resistance to all elements, minions resistance to all elements. So they want you to be able to play all minions and not having to like decide and branch out. Also, the plus minion armor is now 8% on rare notes and 4% on magic notes. The same goes for Skeletal Warrior armor is now also up to 14% and 7%. The Golem's armor up to 14%. Yeah, everything is buffed. All your minions just are more tanky, more healthy, easier to get up. Like if you go for a full minion build, everything is now stronger. Hulking Monstrosity is now 100% bonus damage and not 40% bonus damage if it then actually works, because it didn't used to work, simple as it is. And the same goes for the Warriors and Mages, just increasing their damage by another 8%. Instead of 17, it's 25. The same goes for Golem. So the damage throughout all the board, everything what you can do to your minion gets higher. Maybe with all the multipliers in place, that might finally be enough, because before, if you put everything into minions, it was still just putting the minions up to a point of doing 10,000 damage max per hit, which is not very much. Corporal Rare Glyph. Previous, Paragon notes within range gain 40% bonus to their physical damage and damage reduction modifiers. All magic notes within range have their effects increased by 150%. Okay, that sounds pretty freaking good. Wither Legendary Note, the description now displays your current chance to trigger and the current value of bonus damage. Thank you. Bloodbath got nerfed from guaranteed overpower deals 50% increased damage to all overpowered attacks. Even the ones that randomly trigger. So not only the ones from your Bloodlands and from your Rathmas Vigor and yeah, everything you do. That is a huge buff. I mean, a nerf, but a huge buff because you generally have just some overpowers happening in between, especially with Blood Surge. Bone Graft got nerfed again. Bone Necromancer is being hit. I'm sorry. Change the Wither Legendary Note scaling from willpower to intelligence. That's insane. Change the Darkness Ghost scaling from willpower. That's crazy. Now you have to max intelligence instead of willpower. It's so good because intelligence also hires your elemental resistances, but also intelligence hires your damage. It's your damage stat on the Necro. So now instead of pumping willpower, oh boy. The Blood Artisan's Cuirass got changed. Now it has a maximum life stats, which makes us able to use Blood Artisan's Cuirass in our blood build. Ooh, this is so good. Deathless Visage also now has damage reduction. That's good. And the Bloodless Screen. Damage to frozen enemy effects replaced with bonus intelligence. Chill amount for darkness skills increased from 40 to 100%. Thank you. The unique power has had the following effect added. Darkness skills deal 20 to 50% bonus damage to frozen. Whoa. Okay, cool. That makes finally Bloodless Screen maybe a viable option. But what does Death Speaker's Pendant? Okay, summoning skill damage affix increased by 100%. Thank you. Overpower damage affix replaced with essence cost reduction. I'm not happy with that because the overpower damage was the reason to use the Death Speaker's Pendant. But still, that it now has essence cost reduction is also extremely nice because you want to essentially spam your Blood Surge, allowing you to more Blood Surge spam. For the Black River, damage to healthy enemies affix replaced with bonus ranks of all corpse skills at up to 1 rank above normal value. Cool. Damage to distant enemies replaced with bonus ranks of the hued flashback. Ooh. Let's talk about that. That's pretty good. Then Lidless Wall. Damage to distant enemies affix replaced with bonus maximum life. Great. The damage to distant enemies was so stupid on Lidless Wall because you're going in with that item. Now it's bonus maximum life, making you even more tanky. Fantastic. Also, Ring of Mendel. The unique power no longer requires 7... Very good. Ring of Mendel makes this really nice because now you could also play only with mages, only with warriors, only with golem, which is useless. You want to play the maximum amount of minions. But it's about if some minions die and then your Mendel doesn't work, if you play against Lilith and she blasts your minions away. No, now Mendel is always active. Legendary aspects. The hulking aspect. Hulking aspects will no longer appear on rings. Hulking aspect is your golem having cooldown reduction and chance to spawn corpse. That one now appears on helmets, chest, armor, boots, gloves, amulets, and shields. The title aspect, damage penalty reduced from 60 to 50 to 50 to 40. Oh, that's great. So now the title aspect does 2 blood waves with even more damage. So blood wave buffed. Empowering Reaper has now even more blight bonus damage, but realistically, damaging enemies with Sever has a chance to spawn a pool of blind. That one has never been worth it. I'm sorry, because Sever is meant to high crit, destroy people, and get them out of the game. So it doesn't matter what they do to this, just remove it. Hardened Bones gives you 15 to 20% damage reduction on your minions, which is not needed anymore with the passive being key now, but still it doesn't require 7 minions anymore. The aspect of Reanimation now affects your Golem as well. Now the Golem can also get the 40% bonus damage if he's alive for 10 seconds, which might scale onto his ability because usually his ability scaled actually with your damage, which is plenty weird, but maybe his ability finally scales with his damage. That would be nice. The best part is Coldbringer's aspect. The one where your skeletal mages were able to get Blizzard out. That was only for freeze mages. Now it's all mages. So every mage can do now the Blizzard to freeze and chill. That then works perfectly together with your terror aspect. Which brings us to the aspect of the potent blood. It used to say while at full life, blood orbs ground 10 to 20 essence. Now it says while healthy. And that is such a difference because healthy is 80%, full life is full life, right? So now we always pretty much get assets from this. That is very, very good. Generally, Necromancer looking incredible juicy, but what now about the new unique items and also which boss to kill for which unique? Tassets of the Dawning Sky, new pants for everyone. When you take damage from a non-physical damage type, you gain maximum resistance to that damage type for 6 seconds. This effect can only apply to one damage type at a time. Absolutely not needed for Necro. Then Blood Moon Breaches, new pants. Your minions have a 3 to 7% chance to curse enemies. Enemies affected by at least one of your curses take 70% multiplicative damage increase overpower damage from you. That means if we're playing Iron Maiden or Decrepify, they straight up take 70% multiplicative damage. This is Blood Surge Summoner Supreme. Your minions have a chance to curse, right? They can just apply our Decrepify. They can just apply our Iron Maiden. We want to. But if enemies at least have one, wow, that's great. The God Slayer's Crown for everyone. When you stun, freeze, or immobilize an elite enemy or damage a boss, it pulls nearby enemies. You deal 60% increased damage to them for 3 seconds. Every 12 seconds, pulling everyone together still doesn't seem worth losing the aspect. Flicker Stab. Each enemy you evade through reduces your active cooldown by 2 to 4 seconds up to 10 seconds. Tempest Necro. Getting your Bone Storm way sooner. Tybalt's Will, new pans. You deal 40% increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. When you become unstoppable, gain 50% of your primary resource. Remember the new vampire power, when you evade, you get unstoppable and turn into a cloud of bads. 4 seconds after, you deal 40% increased damage. So you could dash, increase damage, unstoppable, vampiric curse everyone, do more damage to vampiric curse, vulnerable enemies, then blood surge, and then dash again. And, you know, always get the essence as well. So you blood surge until you have no more essence, then you dash, then I like what I see. Cell's Corroded Signet. Cell's Corroded Signet, a ring. Lucky hit, your damage over time effects have up to a 50% to erupt, dealing 5 to 6 damage of the same type to nearby enemies. Huh. Yeah, I'll try that. I mean, Corpse Explosion, Eruption Mania. Let's go. Soul Brawn, unique generic chest. Your healing potions no longer heal instantly. Instead, it grants Barrier for 200% of the healing for 4 seconds. While you have a Barrier, you gain 10 to 20% damage reduction. Not bad. Sounds quite interesting. Also for Sorcerer, so they won't need all the defensive skills anymore. And then Banished Lord Talismans, unique generic chest. After you spend 300 of your primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower. Your critical strikes that overpower deal 80 to 120% increased damage. Interesting. Considering that 300 primary resource is extremely easy to do, and then your core skill would overpower, still seems like a little bit not enough, because 300 primary resource is simple, and you get enough resource back with all the resource returning things. We'll have to try that out. There's also a brand new aspect for necromancers, aspect of the long shadow. Lucky hit, your shadow damage over time effects have a 10 to 30% chance to generate 3 essence. Damage from your Shadow Blight Key passive will always generate 2 essence. We all know how often Shadow Blight Key hits. So if you do a Shadow plus any core skill spender, you'll never run out of essence again, more or less with the aspect of the long shadow, which is an offensive aspect. So that's going to be tricky to get in because we are always struggling on the offensive aspect portion, especially with all the uniques being out there to really get that on point. This would be very good for a Blight Necro that shoots actual blight, or Sever even to really restore the Sever. But yeah, I think this is more like Shadow Blight Machine Gun Necro to be able to really do damage with actual blight and your minions. New Paragon Glyph for the Necromancer, and the most important one, for every 5 int purchased within range, your corpse skills deal 14% plus increased damage. Additional bonus, consuming a corpse fortifies you for 4% of your maximum life and grants you 4% damage reduction. Screw Necrotic Carapace, as soon as you have that one, you'll just get insane bonus damage to your corpse skills, plus you just fortify the whole time as you're consuming corpses. Now there's one that also works with Desecrated Ground, but it's really not worth it to work with Desecrated Ground. Now, which boss do we have to kill for which unique? In tier 3, you could already kill Varshan and Grigor, which you obviously can do in tier 4 as well, but killing Varshan has a chance to give you the Deathless Visage, Death Speaker's Pendant, and the Bloodless Scream. Also Mother's Embrace. Mother's Embrace still very good for overpower builds, especially the Blood Surge. So he would be good for the Blood Surge build. Then Grigor the Galvanic Saint for doing Helltides. Varshan was for doing Whispers. Helltides is Grigor. And for Grigor, you would get Blood Artisan's Kuraz, Hell from Below, and Griefs of the Empty Tomb, plus the Penitent Griefs are possible. Here, only Blood Artisan's Kuraz would be interesting, but don't look at that yet, because we could also look for the Beast in the Ice. That would be doing Nightmare Dungeons tier 21 to 100. Then we can summon him. And the Beast of Ice is very interesting because its Bloodless Scream, Hell from Below could be a must with all the new builds. Also Death Speaker's Pendant and Ring of Mendon. So there's 3 you really want for so many builds. Also Mother's Embrace drops here as well. So if you don't want to go for Mother's Embrace before, here you can also have it. But Legion event and World Boss into Lord Zir is really what we're looking forward to, because he can have Blood Artisan's Kuraz as well, Deathless Visage, Griefs of the Empty Tomb, Litless Wall, so this is for the Tempest Necromancer, and then also Penitent Griefs, Razorblade, and Temerity. Temerity would also be good for the Blood build. So you kind of want to probably do Zir for the Kuraz and the Litless Wall, because these 2 builds are insane, and then focus on the Beast of Ice for the Mendon. For killing Varshan and Grigor, you get Durial, and then Durial is going to have the chance for Black River and Blood Moon Breaches. I just talked about the Blood Moon Breaches, but it can obviously drop for all the classes: Godslayer's Crown, Flicker Step, T-Bolt's Will, X-Fel, Corroded Signet, Soulbound, Banished Lord's Talisman, and all the Uber uniques that you can imagine. Now, don't forget, all these uniques can also drop just randomly in the world, so you don't have to do the respective events. You don't have to, go for Helltides to get the bosses, but the bosses just have a way higher chance. If the world has a 1% chance, they have a 20% chance, roughly. Ladies and gentlemen, what Necro are you going to play? Blood, Shadow, Blind, Corpse? Don't worry, we'll have Season 2 beginner builds 3 to 4 for you, so you can choose what Necro you want to go for with a whole skill pause and everything coming. If you already want to get inspired, there's the Tempest Necromancer, and if you missed the general Season 2 changes on Vampiric Power Theory Craft, down there for Necro.